Welcome to the Caribou Middle School Technology Education Lab. Today I'm going to talk about the cleanup procedure and the tools that you use to get through this process. At the end of each period there is a bell, 10 minutes prior to the end of the period. When that bell rings, that's when everybody stops what they're doing, no matter what it is, and starts to clean. We've got a lot of area to cover on a normal class period. I've got set up here a small working area for demonstration purposes. But remember, everybody's got to start to clean when the bell rings in order for us to get it accomplished. So, number one, everybody needs safety glasses on. Now, if you're working with saws and files and that stuff, you would already have a pair of safety glasses on. But if you're doing the drawing, you probably would not. So everybody needs to get up and get a pair of safety glasses and put them on and keep them on until we tell you to take them off. So, laid out here to my right are the cleanup tools that we normally operate with. First tool that you'll be using would be a dust brush, followed by a sponge, a fairly dry sponge. The water has been squeezed out of it. We've got a shop vac for doing power equipment. We've got a push broom, and we've got a number of these for sweeping the floor, and a dustpan for picking up the dirt. Now I'd like to take an opportunity to show you where these tools are located. Start with, down here by this large yellow pipe, we have several dust brushes. We don't have enough for everybody to use. Ms. Willette has 3. I have a number of them, and 3's enough to get all the benches brushed off. Dustpan is hanging here, and of course this big yellow pipe is attached to what we call the dust collector. Think of it as a giant vacuum cleaner. And all it picks up is the fine dust off the power equipment and off what you sweep off the floor, and takes it up and deposits it outside in a big tank. Next cleanup tool, hanging here on the wall, Mr. Willette has a number of push brooms. Located below them is a big red bin for scrap wood. Sponges are located over here at the sink. Remember, the sponges need to be rinsed out, should be at the end of the period, but you might want to check before you begin. And of course, you need to make sure the water is squeezed out of the sponge. Don't wring the sponges, it just ruins them. And of course, as I said, the shop vac is used for vacuuming up and vacuuming off power equipment. Now, the procedure, the steps that we go through, we're going to do them every day, whether you think they need to be done or not. If everybody does the same thing every day, the place stays nice and clean, no one ends up messing up their clothes. So to begin with, when the cleanup bell rings, everybody needs to start cleaning. And it all starts with putting away those things that you want to hang on to. If you have your drafting equipment out or paper out, pick it up, get it in the notebook in the proper place. And now remember, you've got to move fairly quickly and get the job done. Pencil, don't leave your pencil laying. Somebody's going to brush it off onto the floor. Stick it in the pocket of your notebook. Put your notebook on the shelf, or pick up several and put them on the notebook rack. Drafting tools, you probably as a group got them out. So if there's 4 drafting boards on the table, the same person that got out the drafting boards would pick up all the drafting boards and put them back. So we're going to get the drafting equipment, and we're going to put it in the proper place. Drafting boards go neatly on this pile. T-squares go up here on the T-square rack. Rulers are hung out behind it on a hook with the rest of them. Triangles are hooked on a hook below the drafting boards. Compasses go back on Mr. Willette's desk. Now, if you're working with tin, wood, you also have to get rid of and put away your project. So if you're to the point where you're using a vise, you got your car or whatever it happens to be, and you're cutting away and filing away, you want to hang on to it and make sure you put it in the right place so you know where it's at. Other tools, woodworking tools, some of the metalworking tools go in the large wooden cabinet right in front of me. So let's get that put away. So the only thing that's left now on the bench should be just stuff we want to get rid of. Garbage. In this case, sawdust, probably some erasing crumbs, might be some pieces of paper. So we're now ready to begin the actual procedure of getting out those cleanup tools in the right order and using it. Doesn't do anybody any good to go down and start getting a broom. We're not to that point yet. So the first tool you're going to need to get out, remember, we only got 3 dust brushes. So you're going to brush off the benches, and you're going to brush around the vices. Start in the middle. Work your way out to the edges. Now, you might not think that there's any dust over here, but I think if you run your hand over it, you're probably going to come up with a handful. I don't think anybody wants to lay their hand in somebody else's crud. So work from the center, work your way out, brush it all off on the bench, off on the floor, followed behind by another 3 or 4 people with a sponge. Remember, a damp sponge. Make sure you squeeze the water out. Don't wring the sponge because you'll tear it. Now, sponges are only to be used on the wooden benches. Don't be wiping the dust off power equipment with this. Number one, the power equipment is hooked to 220 volts of electricity, and you never know when there might be a short, and you could electrocute yourself. Water and electricity are not a good thing. So once the bench is brushed off, somebody comes behind and wipes the bench. You're probably not even seeing any moisture here. And that's a good thing. We don't want a pond on the bench. We don't need it dripping off on the floor. Now I'm able to reach the bench halfway on one side. Some of you may have to work it around on all, start from the center and work your way around it like the clock. Just so it gets done. And these people have to move also, because followed right behind them are going to be people waiting to put up their stools. When you're done with the sponge, take it back to the sink and rinse it off. Leave it in the sink. As I said, this is where the stools start to come up. After the bench has been brushed off and has been wiped off with a sponge. So let's get the stools put out. Now, my sample work area, at least the bench, is clean. As clean as we're going to get it. Up to this point, there has been no reason for anybody to have gotten a broom down. Benches all have to be cleaned off around me. Power equipment needs to be vacuumed off. So we don't need people trying to sweep the floor when the benches haven't been cleaned. So, we've put the stools up, we got that out of the way, we want to hang on to the stools. Vacuum cleaner, of course, goes back underneath the stairs. I think everybody can figure out how to use a shop vac. So, we're going to try and sweep this area now. And the key thing to remember is, the brooms are hanging down here on the far wall, away from, to my left. If you're going to, the brooms are hanging there, and the dirt's all going to end up down here at this pipe. That means you need to start sweeping on this end of the building. Down here on this end of the building is a section of red floor. Please stay off it with the brooms. We've got a special broom for that area. Mr. Willett will let you know. So, if you're going to start sweeping, you picked up the broom, and this is where we get people getting junk in eyes, is when they go down and you try to get a broom off the rack. So please be careful. That's the reason why you got the safety glasses on. So if we're going to start sweeping, we're going to start sweeping right down here. And of course, if you got a cabinet, it doesn't do any good to start standing by the cabinet and stick the broom out in front of you. Haven't swept the first part of the floor. So we're going to sweep away from the cabinet. Pulling it away. Now, we've got a nice clean section of floor, and that's where you're going to step down onto your clean floor with your broom. And unfortunately, my back is going to be to you a lot for the next part, but we're going to sweep up each row of tile. If you notice, the floor is laid out and tiles running that way, and we've got tiles running this way. So if I sweep up each row of tile, we've covered the floor. So let's start. And I'm going up each row of tile, whether you think you need to do it or not. And you'll notice there is a nice line of dirt. Once I've worked that line up, now I'm going to move ahead, and I'm going to continue to do that. That way it all gets covered, gets done quickly and efficiently. That means real good. So now I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to sweep towards the wall. And I'm running each row of tile. Don't be afraid to get up underneath the bench and get the dirt out of it. Once again, we will continue. The people that are sweeping, once they have done some of the sweeping, the rest of the people will be filling out their daily record sheet. So you have time to fill out your daily record sheet, somebody else can take the broom from you and continue the process so it gets done. Now, as I said, we're headed to the big yellow pipe. And remember, we're only looking for the dust. I'll sweep it away from the wall here a little bit. Got a nice pile here, right? Now, before you get there, you can sweep the dirt into the pickup for the dust collector. Somebody needs to open the dust collector. There are two things you need to open. Sometimes it's open, sometimes it's not. The two things you need to open are what we call a blast gate, and that can be opened, and for demonstration purposes I have this hook, so I'm not blocking your view, to open the blast gate. And it just pulls straight out. Down at the bottom, there's a door on the pickup. And you open that up and just tip it up and it'll stay up. And now you're ready to sweep your dirt into the dust collector. Now, of course, if there's big pieces of wood or metal, you need to pick them up. And we're going to push that up there close. And we'll finish it in just a minute. At this point, if everything else has been swept on the floor, you're ready to put the broom away. Let's go hang it up and get it out of the way. Now, after everybody has gotten their dirt up to the pickup for the dust collector, we're now ready to take and sweep the rest of the dust into the dust collector. Unfortunately, I can't do this without kind of blocking your view. So somebody's going to have to get down in there and take a dust brush and brush all the fine dirt up into the dust pickup. Remember, don't turn on the dust collector until the dust is there and you've hung the dust brush up, because we've had them picked up takes them right outside and runs it through the machine. One, it ruins the dust brush, and it doesn't do the machine any good either.